the only way that we're going to bridge is to allow for everyone to be at the table with the discomfort and expanding our own capacity as humans to sit with the discomfort long enough to create a real solution where equity and belonging has a place.
Welcome to Empaths Anonymous,
a space for dreamers, healers, and feelers navigating the fine line between putting yourself first and holding space for others.
If you struggle with balancing your needs while still supporting your tribe, then you're in the right place.
Welcome to the support group.
Hello. Hi. Welcome to Empaths Anonymous podcast. I am Danny.
And I'm Christina.
And we have a fun one today, as we always do. But first, before we do that, what's in your cup?
Today, what is in my cup is I have the vanilla, it's the Sprouts Cinnamon Vanilla Rooibos. Is that how you say that? Rooibos?
Rooibos or rooibos? Rooibos?
Yes.
Rooibos.
Mixed with, you know I love a mix.
It's
the Bravo Tea Functional Mushroom Tea. It's called Mushroom Defense, and it has 6 different mushrooms in it.
Wow.
And I put some of the Laird sweet and creamy creamer with it. That's what's in my cup.
Yep, we're both on the Lairds these days.
Yeah. And
We've
what's
invested.
in my life cup is coming off of Love Week. I'm going to be going to Vegas this coming week because my mom's birthday is Valentine's Day, but we're celebrating this coming weekend.
So young.
Crystal's Corner.
Happy birthday. So young. Crystal's Corner. Crystal's Corner. Welcome
Period.
back to another session of Crystal's Corner. Happy birthday, Crystal, the one, the only, the truly, the dearly Aquarius, a woman after my own heart, crocheting badass that you are. I hope you got your dog.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. She is thinking about getting another dog. It is a small one though. It's like kind of a small yapper.
I take it back.
It's a
just kidding.
A multi-poo.
Okay. You know, guys, I'm not a small dog kind of girl. I need medium to big.
Yeah,
is my vibe.
She wants, because Finney is very anxious. He's a pandemic dog, and so he just doesn't really like traveling. He doesn't like car rides.
Okay.
So I think that she wants a dog that she can bring on the plane. Like, she wants to register a dog as a service animal, so she can bring it on the plane, and like she wants a dog to go with her places.
A friend.
Ozzy's too big. He's 110 pounds.
Yeah.
And Finney's too scared. So she needs a new dog.
She needs a not scared dog.
Yes.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Mom. I love you very, very much. You are my favorite Aquarius. And speaking about my mother, I went back in my lineage on my mom's side because we were talking about it's February 1st, Harold's birthday, is the anniversary of my grandma's death. And she died in 2012. She died 2/1/2012. So 2/1/12.
Oh, shoot.
And my birthday is 1/2/21.
Yeah.
Fucking weird. Which is really funny because I was having dreams about her. Like, she was coming to me in dreams, and I'm like, her birthday is the 25th of January, and then she died the 1st of February. So I'm like, I wonder if it's just because it's around that time.
Yep.
But I went back in my lineage. My mom's an Aquarius. Her mom's an Aquarius. Her mom was a Libra. Her mom was a Libra. So I am the first fire sign woman in 5 generations. They've all been air signs.
Whoa.
Yeah,
my shit's all over the place.
Yeah.
I think I'm Earth, my mom's water, and her mom's air, Gemini. And then my Nana, I think, was a Taurus.
Oh.
Okay, so that would be Earth, air, water, Earth again. So I wonder who was there. I wonder if there's a fire in there somewhere.
Right. And your daughter's Earth.
And my daughter's Earth.
Yeah. Very interesting. But
soups. I love that.
We love Crystal. We hope everything that you desire Crystal. This year that you get. Thank you for being an amazing mom. And I'm so excited to see all of your growth and just all the new things that you're coming into. You guys, please, I mean, there's no, I don't have any of her stuff linked, and she doesn't have a Instagram for her business, but please bully her lovingly into opening a shop for her crochet, because she's very, very talented, and she could honestly replace her income and her job with just crocheting.
Oh, I love that.
And yeah, I'm feeling a lot better in February than I was in January. I was very, very tired like the last 2 weeks of January.
There was so much going on. There was sickness. It was a lot of health issues happening. The whole house was sick at one point. It was a lot of time. It took a lot of time to recover from that. So I'm glad now, being toward the end of February, that we are there. And it perfectly fits into our episode today. But my cup is just,
Yeah,
my
what's in
physical
your
cup
cup?
is just water.
Your cup.
I don't even know if we're okay. So I never want to say that I have to stop putting just in front of things, because it just I just did it. It minimizes what it is that I am doing and accomplishing. I am drinking water. I am staying hydrated, and I'm drinking good water, and it's good for me.
Good.
It's very good.
water.
It's good water. And that's it. And school has been tough, trying to balance that and still figure out. I'm still kind of like I'm hoping on like the tail end of my health concerns. I'm feeling like I am. But yeah, just trying to like reset how I do things. Like, I'm on a lot more supplements now that I said I would start doing again at the top of the year. And I'm actually finally implementing that into my daily routine and kind of cutting out a lot of unnecessary things. The hardest thing for me though is the sugar. Sugar is the hardest.
I feel like, I mean, unless you're eating it or not around me, I feel like you've been doing,
I am.
Oh.
Just kidding.
I feel like you haven't really been eating a lot of like snacks, sugary
No,
snacks.
I have my like, when I want a sweet, it's why I have my mochi. Because when I have my mochi, I could just take one and like it satiates my sugar craving. You know, it's a green tea, it's a strawberry, it's a mango. Like, I can go and get like any flavor mochi I want. Speaking of sweet, this chocolate right here, you guys, lifesaver. It's so good. It's Honey Mama.
Honey Mama. This
And
is the
that's
almond, the cherry almond.
Cherry almond. And I tried the chocolate cake or whatever it was. Oh, I'm not like a huge like chocolatey, like fudgy, dense chocolate type of person, but that's really good. And yeah, that's pretty much it. School's like always going to be the one for me. And then of course the mom guilt that comes with always having to do that and go to work and handle the podcast stuff. She just is well taken care of by my support system here. So I'm here, but like I don't really get to spend quality time with her. And that part to me is always just like, I hate it. But this last week we did some fun stuff. We cooked a few things together. We baked cookies. They're really good, actually. The Lauren's gluten-frees from Sprouts, they had a Barbie collab.
Cute.
And they're little hearts.
Cute.
And she found them in the other fridge. So she shouted at me from downstairs, Mom!
Oh, I heard her this morning.
Can we make the
Was that this morning or yesterday
cookies?"
morning?
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
Please. And I'm like, okay, I can't say no now.
The girl can get anything she wants with the please.
Yeah.
We went on. She stormed her ass out the door and was down the driveway. And your mom and I were like, went after her, like, what are you doing out here by yourself? Like, you need to have an adult. And she's like, I just want to go for a little walk. And I was like, okay, well, you're wearing your slippers, so let's put shoes on. How about, and then she didn't want to put her shoes on, of course, you know.
Right. The battles.
Yes, toddler struggles. And I was like, okay, how about this deal? You have to make deals with her now. How about this
a good
deal?
idea.
If you put your Crocs on, because your mom had some business to do. And so I was like, how about if you put your Crocs on, me and you by ourselves can go on a little walk.
Yeah.
And she was like, so then she raced to put her Crocs on, but then she got a little sneaky with it.
As one does.
And she brought Ariel with her because she has to bring one of her girls with her everywhere.
Yeah.
And so she brought Black Ariel with her. And she goes, well, I want to show Ariel something. We're exploring like Ariel does in the sea. I'm like, okay.
Oh my God. The reasoning is like, the reasoning for me is kind of like, I can't really battle the reasoning.
No.
I can't I can't fight. She's a good lawyer.
No. And then we're like all the way down to the stop sign on the corner. And she's like, well, the park is right there. And I go, I know, but we don't have the right shoes for the park.
Right.
Because it's wood chips and we both have Crocs on. And she was like, just 10 minutes, please. And I was like, fine, 10 minutes. So I set a timer for 15 minutes. I had her set the timer.
Yeah.
15 minutes. 15 minutes comes. And honestly, it was a quick 15 minutes. So I was like, okay, let's add another 10. The 10 minutes comes. Just 5 more minutes.
Oh my God.
5 minutes comes. And then I was like, okay, now I really do have to pee.
Yeah.
And there were like storm clouds gathering above us. It was that day that it was like raining off and on. I'm like, look at the sky, girl. It's dark. We gotta go.
Yeah.
We're gonna get rained on.
Yeah.
And so finally, but I was like, it turned from a 10-minute play session at the park to like a 40-minute play session at the park. Your mom was probably like, are they okay?
Oh my gosh. I'm sure I appreciated the break. But yeah, that is how it goes. That is how it goes these days with her. Mm-hmm. She is very hot and heavy on the negotiations. Very. And she wins them all. And it's tough. It's tough out here in these streets.
Does she say what she wants to be when she grows up?
A doctor.
Okay.
Right now it's doctor.
She will be a very great lawyer.
Yeah. I saw a post the other day that was like, all eldest daughters have been told that they should be lawyers at some point. Oh my gosh. Speaking of, okay, we have to hurry up. But you guys, I am on, if it's a solo journey, it's the one that I'm on, but I am deathbound and determined to bring back Tumblr. And I have created a Tumblr for the Empaths Anonymous podcast, and I will link it in our show notes. And so far I've reposted 2 things, and it feels really good to repost stuff.
Okay.
Because I used to have a Tumblr back in the day. We both did.
I don't even have the logins yet. Yeah. I have my original
sign in with for ours.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just a sign in with Google.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's very easy.
Yeah. I still have mine. I just will never, ever, ever, ever reveal because there's embarrassing things there. I used to live tweet Teen Wolf, you guys. Live, not even tweet, live post on Tumblr, Teen Wolf.
And honestly, it would be really fun to go back and look at those things for you. Maybe not for everybody else.
Not for everybody else. You guys would be like, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
Also,
that's in my cup. Water and mom guilt.
It do be like that.
Yeah.
We will get into our episode, which is with Miss Shantani Moore. We say this in the episode, but I met her through, once again, Miss Maddie Murphy. Makes a cameo again on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we were having a session and she just said something very profound. And it was the week of the election. So it was when we found out that
what we found out.
I'm not going to say those words out loud. And yeah, I just remember like being on the call and being like, I need to talk to this girl more, you know? So we did, and we connected, and then we invited her on the podcast, and it was a great time. After we recorded the episode, she invited us, which you'll hear about in our outro, to come and experience a session with her. So stay tuned for that. Mm-hmm. But without further ado, let's just get right into our interview with Shantani.
See ya.
Welcome back to the Empaths Anonymous podcast. Today we have my friend that I'm so excited to share some space with today. Her name is Shantani Moore. She's a spinal energetics coach who helps ambitious millennials get paid to shake up their industry without burning out. She has facilitated for 10 years, hosting corporate workshops, training celebrities, and leading global retreats. As the holistic hype woman, Shantani will help you live life on your own terms rather than living into the life you've been sold. Welcome to the podcast, Shantani.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so stoked to be here.
We're so excited. It actually is just kind of the perfect day to have you on, just with everything going on and how we're feeling. And we're going to come see you in LA. So we're so excited.
Mm-hmm. We're ready to go. Before we get into the meat and potatoes, we wanted to ask you, as we ask everyone, what is in your cup today? What are you drinking on?
I also love this question. So I prepared something special. We've got a matcha masala chai with homemade oat milk and a little cinnamon.
Oh, okay, matcha girlies, rise up. Everyone raise your goblet of matcha.
I have cold brew, but we'll cheers.
Yeah. I needed a little something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. And then how are you showing up today? What's in your emotional cup, your cup of life?
What's in my cup of life? I'm really grateful for this call. It's definitely a time of lots of flux, lots of change globally, micro, macro. It's all happening around us. And I'm really ready to dive into this conversation with you two. You two seem just like two bundles of light, but also who are really grounded and rooted. So it's nice to be able to connect today.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. That's
what
such
a
a
beautiful
compliment.
Yeah.
And
We
for our
try.
listeners who don't know, I know Shantani because we both were in a cohort container with Miss Maddie Murphy. And so we dove into our astrology, and there were like, I think about 8 of us. And there was just something that Shantani said in one of the sessions. I think the day after the election or the week after the election, and just talking about how, everybody was hitting her up because they needed healing. And she was like, well, I'm a Black woman. I need healing too. I need rest too. Like, why are we always responsible for helping the collective? And it's like, well, when do we get our, rest and restoration?
Yeah, that was a really tough time for a lot of people. And I felt like, especially you and I on that call, I was like, sis, come on, you already know. So I'm really glad that you reached out and we could like dive into it a little bit deeper. Yeah.
For sure. I was like, ooh, there's more there. There's more under the surface. I need to be able to talk to Shantani, get to know her better. So we're so excited to have you. But let's just jump right into it. We would love to hear a little bit more about your story and what led you to get into healing work.
Thank you for asking. So I've had many careers in this lifetime. And my first career was a singer, dancer, actor here in Los Angeles, and doing that hustle, that grind. And I learned a lot about the hustle, period. That led me to finding my way to fitness, which found me to yoga. And as a lot of like actors and dancers here, we find that as a side hustle, and it quickly became my main hustle. But beyond that, I would say like healing, it really came out of a need. It's really funny because I think that a lot of the times, speaking of Maddie Murphy, she says this all the time. It's like the medicine that we make is the medicine that we take.
Yeah.
And I needed support, and trying to hustle around the city, go to auditions, and teach like 20 classes a week. I found myself one day actually not just mentally and emotionally burnt out, but my body physically shut down. And I was teaching a class. And at the end of the class, we were laying down for a Shavasana and yoga class. And it was time for me to get up and close the class. And I couldn't get up. I physically could not get up. And we almost had to call 911. And I was like, okay, intervention with me. It's the problem high. So that really brought me to really commit to healing myself and my relationship to my body and what it means to be in this body. And yeah, the medicine that we make is the medicine that we take. And it just allowed me to go on a journey and now create spaces for others to do the same.
Love that. I love how much you can start in one area and then it just completely leads you to something you would never expect. I think that's something that we need to embrace a lot more of, because I have struggled with that. Leaning, like when I have my mind set on something, speaking of all of the earth in all of our charts, it's like that kind of like that stubbornness, that like willingness to just keep going, the drive. And so when your path goes this way, or you have like a Y in the road and you're like, well, I was not planning on that, and I still want to go straight, but there's no way to go straight. So I definitely align with that. I think we both do very much.
The Taurus in me is like, well, no, I made my choice, and I'm going to have my choice come hell or high water.
Yeah.
And the universe is like, well, I had something better for you, but if you would just, relax.
Yeah.
It wouldn't feel like such a struggle.
Correct.
Totally.
Yeah. I love that you also listen to yourself, because a lot of us would have just kept going. You would have thought like, it's a one-off. Like, I'm just tired. I'll get rest and I'll get back to it. I'm really glad that you took that time to be like, no, it's more than that, girly. Like, this is not just something that happens on a regular. So a really good example of listening to your body. To kind of pivot a little bit to, I suppose, what it is that we're all feeling here recently, speaking to the time of the election and things like that, our current socio-political climate can make us BIPOC women feel extra responsible to jump in and help others in times of this collective uncertainty. So how do we assert rest over rescue, which is a phrase coined by Breonna Laren, who we actually found through you, which was amazing. So we're so fascinated with her art and all that.
How can we assert rest over rescue as BIPOC women in the year of our Lord 2025? That is the question of our lifetimes. Yeah, I think there's so much that comes through for me. And the first thing that comes through is not to underestimate our own generational patterning that is to be the one that people turn to in crisis and to solve the problem, and to be the ones that solve the problems and create solutions in a very resourceful way. And first of all, just because of the work that I do, to really turn all the focus back to you, and this sounds so trite, but really going, what do I need? What do I really need? And understanding too that, not to be from a bypassing standpoint of not everybody has the privilege to turn and look inward all the time and say what you need, but how do I feel in my body right now, and having a really connected relationship with your felt sense in your body. Because if you're going out to, use that language to go and help others and rescue others, and you are drowning, we all know how that's going to end. So how can we assert? I think by having a really deeply intimate relationship with our bodies as women of color, of what it means to be in this body, truly, all of the light, all of the heavy, all of the good, all of the hard, all of the lack of privilege, all of the leverage. Like, there's just such a full range conversation around it. And because we aren't educated all the time on what it actually means to be in these bodies, because of the systems on the outside that might tell us otherwise from what we feel on the inside, I think the most important, most revolutionary thing you could do is actually build an intimate relationship with your body and what it means to be in it.
Yeah, totally. I have really seen a shift in how I respond in times of, crisis and uncertainty. I'm looking back to 2020, talking about how this year is kind of mirroring that, but it's also unprecedented in a lot of ways. But I was just such in flight or flight mode, like all of 2020, especially the summer with George Floyd and everything. And it was this feeling of, well, if I don't, who will? If I don't educate this person, if I don't post this on social media, if I don't get on the soapbox, if I don't, down the line of things, nobody else is going to step up and do it. And I've really just found a lot of power and a lot of freedom in saying, you know what? It's not my responsibility. My responsibility is me. And if I come and I join all these spaces with stank energy, or I'm angry, or I'm, just preaching at people, it's like, first of all, that's off-putting anyway. And it's not really doing any help. It's like, well, like you said, the shining our light and just being in this embodied sense of self of who we are as women of color, that speaks way more volumes than me posting things on social media or, trying to educate people on this is why we're in this spot that we are in socially and politically. Just being yourself and being the medicine to me has made a huge difference in just how I feel.
Totally. I mean, I would also say, to just continue that, it's really, again, being in connection with yourself and knowing what's yours to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there are people who, everybody, I believe, has a role in this conversation, no matter where you are on the race spectrum, the gender spectrum, all of it. Like, it's an everyone problem. And knowing what's yours to actually do it's like a very like common principle in business of having like the right person in the right seat, right? So it's like if you have somebody who's really good at creative and they're working on something else that's not creative, right, you're actually in detriment in your business. And I think that's the same thing in these conversations of knowing like what's mine to do. And because there are people who are so incredible at bridging, right, and being that bridge. And also, if you're pouring from a place that, I'm just gonna say it, like if you're pouring from a place that's just empty, speaking of cups, like again, it just
Right.
it sounds like so trite and like we say it all the time, but it's like, sis, you deserve better, you deserve more, and no one's coming to save you. Straight up, like you have to. I was literally putting on mascara before we came on here, and I was like, I'm a grown ass Black woman with grown ass Black problems. So we need to be focusing on what do you need first, and then from there not feeling like you constantly have to outsource and to like not really outsource but rather focus the attention outward, because isn't that how we've been conditioned to decenter ourselves? And then we do that for ourselves, and then we wonder like it can lead to this place of feeling so hopeless, and it's really really can be quite dangerous. So yeah, just knowing what's ours to do, and knowing when there is going to be times where it might not be convenient, and be like, one of my things this year is like being like just be inconvenient. It's okay to be inconvenient, and like really do what is right to be a peacemaker versus a peacekeeper. And for myself, being a Black woman walking through a lot of white wellness space and white like spirituality circles, if you have it in you, meaning in that day your cup is full, to say what needs to be said and be the one who is inconvenient but also channeling truth, then be the one. Because the only way that we're going to bridge is to allow for everyone to be at the table with the discomfort, and expanding our own capacity as humans to sit with the discomfort long enough to create a real solution where equity and belonging has a place.
Yeah, I love that. I think that, to your point, knowing what is yours to do also relieves a lot of that guilt and that shame.
Totally.
Sitting on the sidelines sometimes and being like, well, I should be at that march. Well, I should be doing this. Well, I should be volunteering. Well, I should. It's like, well, maybe that's just not my job to do today. Maybe my job to do today is take care of myself, check in on the people that I love. And I'm finding a lot of freedom and healing in pouring that pain and that hurt and that confusion into something that I love, into something that can be alchemized into something for good. So whatever that is for people listening, I always encourage that, whether it's something that's just meant for you or something that you are putting on a platform and sharing with the world. That's really healing, and it also can ignite a lot of change.
Absolutely. And it's just this dance that we do, right? Because I think it speaks to your values as well. Because I resonate with that of going, I can be doing more. It's all the earth signs. We're like, do more, do more, do more, right? But it's
check
like,
the box.
Check the box. Somebody get your highlighters. Okay.
Yes.
Like literally. But at the same time going, there are going to be times where I don't feel like I want to, and I must. There are going to be times where I don't feel like I want to, and today I get to, like, we can honor that. And I know that sounds, it sounds very, discretional, but that's just what it is. Like, we have to be in alignment with, do you know what your values are? What's yours to do? And listening to the whispers. This is last thing I'll say on this for me is that, spirit, I think life speaks in whispers. And we're so used to, like, that day when I was almost not able to get up and had to go to the hospital, that wasn't the first time my body was whispering, you're doing too much. You're trying to push beyond your means, but we wait until our life, our hearts, our minds, our bodies are screaming. And so that intimate connection with yourself of when you have the privilege to find it, because I don't want to bypass that, is the most important resource you'll ever have.
Correct. Yeah, we don't ever want to bypass the people that don't have that, the people that are actually just almost always in survival, fight or flight. We understand that it is a privilege to sit in your feelings, listen to the whispers, listen to your body. It was years and years that I was in fight or flight before, my body was screaming at me. My mind was screaming at me. And I recognize and I acknowledge that exiting from that place mentally and physically and coming to a place where I did have support and where I did have the time to just, it was like a release. And I'm like, what about the people that don't have this? What about the people that don't have this support? What about the people that don't have that refuge? And so we always want to acknowledge those people. And a common theme that continues to come up on this podcast is always to start small. So you can do that even when you are in that survival, because I found myself multiple times hearing it, but saying, okay, like I'm hearing that. And that's really interesting.
Right.
So it's like you are hearing it.
Right.
Even when you are in that mental space.
And even the systems in place are kind of stacking the odds against us. And I think that's where a lot of these tropes that get put on us come from, because people who may not have the privilege to slow down, single mothers or, Black and brown women, just they take on a lot culturally, socially. And so not having that privilege, it's like, well, it's just continuing this cycle and this stereotype of, well, Black women are just angry and they're just doing too much, or like Hispanic women, well, they are actually the head of their family. And it's like, well, we're being forced to. So I think that, like you said, it's a privilege. And I'm wishing for anyone listening out there that even if you just have 5-10 minutes or finding somebody who can support you and listen to you makes the world of difference. And I hope one day we're at a time where we all can slow down a little bit.
Totally. I feel like both of you are really speaking to that invisible labor. It's the invisible labor of how I'm going to walk into this meeting. How am I going to walk into this meeting? Or how am I going to present myself? Or how, and, somebody who's not on this podcast would say, well, you don't have to do that. You don't have to be like that. And it's like, well, I think that there's just so much more nuance to the conversation. So
yes.
One thing that I'd love to offer to you who's listening is one of the first pieces of advice when I began my journey in the unraveling, in the slowing down, was this conversation around how do we start small and to listen to our intuition. And it was the best advice, and it was so simple. And it's just you can pick any chore that you do, or for example, when you go to the grocery store and you're going to pick out bell peppers, instead of just going through and just picking whichever one, just take one breath and see which one you feel drawn to, right? So you're like, oh, I'm going to take this bell pepper over this one. Or let's say you're driving and you're like, oh, normally I turn right here, but something in me just wants to go straight. And it's not as sexy as saying, let me give you a breath work meditation, but so much of the work that I believe in and that I'm an advocate for is how do we make it tangible, and how do we weave this as a way of life for everyone? Because I believe that if everyone were able to have those micro moments of checking in, right? Checking in with your body. And you brought up fight or flight earlier. There is this dissociation that can happen when you are in chronic stress. And it's for survival. It's not a bad thing. It's a protection mechanism. So in those moments where you can check in and remind your body, hey, are you okay? Like you get to make those choices, and it really comes to this conversation of neuroplasticity, which is like, you know, the long and the short of it is, you know, creating new wrinkles in your brain so that you can like rewire and rework the way that you live and the way that you human and the way that you feel. And it gets to be simpler. Like I just it doesn't have to be cold plunges and ice, like all of that stuff. It can be like, you know what, I'm gonna get this bell pepper and start small and make it, ask yourself, are you really making it a way of life, or are you, you know, segmenting your connection with self and then setting yourself aside to do things for other people?
Yeah.
I love that.
Intuition is a practice, just like meditation is.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
Sign me
it's
up for something practical any day.
listen,
It makes
any day.
sense.
It's got to be easier, and it's not going to, if it, you know, I worked in fitness for so long. I was like, if I just watch people set these goals that it sounds good, but I'm like, listen, if you're having a hard time going for like a walk, don't talk to me about like a 6-week, 2-a-day boot camp. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And also, like you brought up people who are working full-time jobs, people who are mothers, people who like, if it's not practical, it's not happening. So don't talk to me about it.
Right.
Get out of here with that noise. It's
Yeah.
not helpful. And it makes people feel lonely, and it makes people feel like there's something wrong with them when it's not them. It's the system, it's the practice, it's the strategy is not for them. So it's like, you're not broken. There's nothing to fix. You just need to figure out how to make it work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. We talk about that all the time because we are not like 5 a.m., like having your 5 to 9 before your 9 to 5. Like we are not those girls. We'll never be. I'll never make myself. It doesn't bring me joy. In fact, it brings me the opposite of that. So why would I force myself to do that? But even just the access that I'm seeing a lot of in the wellness industry, like I would love to be able to do Pilates 5 days a week, but I don't have, you know, the $300 a month for extra for like a membership to do that all the time. I love it. It fills me up. It brings me joy, but sometimes I can do it once a week, and that's great.
Amen.
Yeah. So we do want to get more into your work and what you do. We had not heard of Spinal Energetics, honestly, until I had met you. So in doing our research, we kind of got a little bit more into that. Can you explain to our audience what the practice entails and how it kind of marries together these Eastern and Western modalities?
Totally. Spinal energetics is a nervous system decompression technique. So, we've been talking this whole time about chronic stress, and our bodies get into a practice of going, okay, if being stressed out is the name of the game, I'm just going to stay this way. And fortunately, we've now connected as a society with this concept of resting and digesting. We hear about it a lot with food, and you can also do that with your emotions, which are stored in the body, and find yourself in a place where you get to process things that maybe when you were in another situation, you didn't have room to process it. So, have y'all ever heard of the book Your Body Keeps the Score?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who maybe haven't heard of that book, highly recommend. It's a little long, but go for it.
Yeah. It's
But
dense. It's not like a light reading. It took me a minute to get through it, but it's very good.
It is a bit dense, but TLDR, your body stores memory all throughout your system, not just in your brain. And that's why when you're walking into a party, you're like, knock, 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 or whatever. I don't know if you're knocking on the door going to a party, but you like open the door, and the first thing is you kind of get a vibe check on the people in the room. You're like, should I have come? Should I have like been like, oh, I gotta wash my hair? Should I all of that? You have this felt sense of your body taking in information, right? Of whether you're happy to be here or not. And spinal energetics helps us to deepen that relationship so that it doesn't only come up in situations where you're stressed, but it is more of a way of life. We use Western, which is based off of network spinal chiropractic, which is a well-researched chiropractic technique that doesn't do any manual manipulation, but more works with the connective tissue, and Eastern practices based off of Reiki and shamanism and all kinds of other things, Kundalini. So those two come together in the practice to co-create an environment for people to process things that maybe in the moment they didn't have the capacity to.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we watched videos.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, oh, I know that I need it, but I also know that I'm not ready to maybe feel some of those things or experience some of those experiences.
Tell me more.
Or I've convinced myself that I'm not ready, right? I don't know. We have this conversation a lot where I've been in talk therapy off and on for about a year, and it's just not giving. I intellectualize, I internalize. I'm not telling her the real deal. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot of surface stuff. It's like, what's going on in your life? Like, let me tell you, girl. You know, it's giving like bestie chat. It's like, I already have Christina for that. I already have Christina to like, we literally unload on each other all the time. Like, you know, I want my therapist to like dig deeper. I want her to ask me like harder questions. I want her to challenge me. So I feel like I need another modality to be able to actually be challenged. And it does need to be physical. It needs to be EMDR. It needs to be tapping. It needs to be something like that. So those videos to me feel intimidating because I almost have this premonition in a way that I'm going to have some sort of emotional breakdown or breakthrough. And I'm scared.
That's so relatable, Danny. That's so relatable. I mean, we as humans, we're hardwired. Our bodies are hardwired to crave homeostasis, right? If you were like, you know what I want? You know, I want to have a breakdown like that. We would be like, you good, girl? Like, what's going on?
Yes.
Like, that is so relatable. And I'm so glad that you brought that into this space because so many, a lot of my clients who, when they first begin, they come in because you know what it is because they know subconsciously, you know how much you're holding. And bringing in the conversation, especially as Black and brown women, it is very rare to be in a space where we can be fully seen and fully held. Period. I can name maybe one or two instances, maybe, where I've felt fully held, and that is honestly more than most.
Right.
9 times out of 10, people don't know how to hold the fullness of us.
Yeah.
And so we now go, am I too much? We start kind of doing the gaslighting thing, and we're afraid because we haven't seen it reflected back. Like maybe little didn't see it reflected back that she could do whatever she needs to do and it'll be fully held and it'll be all good and it'll be okay. And that's so fair. The one thing I will say too with spinal energetics is because it's a nervous system technique, the work only works as you start to rest and digest, right? So you can only go as far as you are, as your body, not cognitively, but like how your body is comfortable. That's how far you'll go. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So that's number one. And number two is it's a co-creative practice. When you think about getting a massage, a lot of people see it. And first of all, there's like, I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes we be doing things and we post the things that catch people's eye because hello, the gram, we want to get the work out there, you know? But the truth of the matter is that it's such a subtle practice. It usually just starts off with, you get like a little twitch. Just thinking about like a reflex. Like if you go to the doctor and they kind of hit your knee with that hammer and your leg just goes boop. It's just a little flex, you know? And then from there, your body goes, oh, is it safe for me to express? Then you might start to breathe a little bit deeper. It's like you're not starting there.
Yeah.
We co-create the environment. You know, it's you. People are you're fully in control and fully conscious. It's not like a massage where you just lay down and the practitioner is doing everything like to you.
Right.
It's me talking to you and saying, how do you feel? Hey, take a deep breath. Hey, open up your chest. Like, let's kind of like dance with this energy. And gosh, like how liberating would it? Can we cuss on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Be your
Okay.
full self.
I didn't ask before. Okay, yeah. Like how fucking liberating. How fucking liberating would it be to be able to play the fullness of you and have it be held by someone who's ready to hold you? Like that's what we need. We need to know that we can be held. We can be in our fullest expression. I like to say like self-expression is essential to our health. It literally is. And the reason why we feel like we're constantly having to hyper intellectualize or, you know, feeling like we have to over assess our environment before we step into a room is like, gosh, wouldn't it just be fucking great to just be like, what up? My name's Danny. I'm pissed. Let's talk about it. Or let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, like, let's just feel it and really detach ourselves from actually the intellectualizing of it and get you into the feeling.
Right.
Because you getting to feel it, yeah, it might hurt. And then it'll pass. And being held by someone who, I'm so excited for y'all's session. I like cannot wait.
I know. It's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
it's gonna be good.
Like I'll say this. Spinal Energetics, it made me feel more human.
I love that. Yeah. I am kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum from Danny because, I mean, maybe it's my water moon. I'm like, I need to feel the shit. I need to release the shit. Like, crack me open. You know, I'm tired of carrying all this shit.
She's a Humpty Dumpty.
Please, please.
Humpty Dumpty.
Yeah. And I think we balance each other really well in that. But I have been doing Reiki for like probably 3 or 4 years. So is it kind of similar to that? Reiki feels very like internal and meditative, and this feels like more like releasing.
Great question. So I'm also a Reiki master teacher. So
Okay.
I like to weave the two. And it's also spinal is heavily influenced by that as well. To me, Reiki feels like, if you could think of like a house, okay? Reiki feels like somebody's coming, like we're coming in, we're opening up the windows, we're getting some fresh air, we're maybe dusting off some surfaces, we're resetting, we're clearing out totally like what might need to shift. It feels more like a Swiffer to me.
Okay.
Spinal Energetics feels like we about to Marie Kondo this shit. Okay. Okay, we're gonna come in here and be like, do you even like this coffee table, yo? Like,
Right.
do you even like this jacket? Like, and while there is sometimes we have those attachments, gosh, once you're complete, your space, everything in your space is exactly what you would love.
Right.
And you, again, I just want to reinforce this for the people listening and for the both of you before your session. We have agency. You get to choose. You get to choose, do I want to let that go? I actually, you know, I think it's less about letting things go and actually about pulling them closer. And going, actually, I'm going to actually pull these parts of me closer and get to know them. And because when we're trying to push them away, that's why we're afraid of them, because we don't know them.
Right.
Yeah. We talked about that with Nizreen, I think our second guest ever on the podcast, with parts work and doing those things and getting to know your parts. And as soon as you get to know them, they do become less scary and intimidating. You know, it's like Inside Out 2, the Deep Dark Secret.
Yeah.
He was stuck in the vault.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Inside Out 2. Can we just take a moment for that anxiety scene though?
Oh
my
yeah.
gosh.
Sobbing in the theater. And my 3-year-old's looking at me like, girl, are you all right? I'm like, no. Yeah. She can't conceptualize that yet. You know, I think it was for
she thinks
older
it's
kids.
funny.
Yeah. So, we loved it. It's just a hard one to watch multiple times, but because I have a toddler, of course I've watched it multiple times.
We're forced.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose we've had two kind of different approaches. My approach, I guess my feeling toward going into the session isn't skepticism, but for those people who are not like me, who are like, I'll do it, I'm not skeptical of it, but I'm scared, or Christina, who's a Humpty Dumpty, and she's like, yup, lay me
I'm
out
in for that.
and I'm going, and I'll go first, actually.
I'm tired. Let's lessen the load.
Yeah. So how do you explain the benefits of your sessions to someone who may be actually skeptical that it even works or it even is real?
If it even works or it even is real, I would say, well, when we go into the sessions, this is not about doing the work actually on the table. It's about who are you becoming off the table. So I like to, because I also do coaching and consulting, right? Spinal energetics is a tool. Reiki is a tool. Breathwork is a tool. It is not the goal.
Right.
It's supposed to bring us closer to ourselves. So I would, or I will, ask you both, like, what is the vision? What is the goal? What, like, who are you who do you want to be? What would your life feel like if X, Y, and Z? And we have that conversation, and 9 times out of 10 people start to share what the hindrance might be and how it feels. And my only, not my only, but my invitation is to, well, let's explore what's going on in your body and get you just more connected to being in your body so that you can at least make clearer decisions. So you're not feeling like you're not sure, uncertain, oh, I don't know, but you can actually take a deep breath and go, I know I've created a map and a relationship with my body. I know where yes lives. I know where no lives. As far as like the skepticism, I understand it. I understand it. It's not in line with the conventional way of modern Western medicine and what we've been taught. And so I think it's healthy to question things you don't fully understand. And then there's the other side of that, which is there's like that episode of Friends where Phoebe's like, Ross, wasn't there a time where all the smartest people on the planet thought that the world was flat? And then and she like talks about that. And I'm always open to, what if there is more? What if there's more for us to learn? And what if the only thing holding me back is my ignorance?
Right.
Not in a condescending way, just like what I don't know.
Correct.
So there's that. Simply put as well, think of Pavlov's dog. If you've ever heard of that study, for anybody listening, they do this study where they ring a bell and a dog is seeing the food and it starts to salivate, and they're conditioning the dog, and then they take the food away and they ring the bell and the dog continues to salivate without the food, right? So this is all about a concept of conditioning and patterning. That's all spinal energetics is. We're using breath, stretch, and sound to help your body to reconnect with its own innate wisdom to deal with stress. Because instead of feeling like you're frozen in this state of fear or stress. So if you're down, I think it's just like nervous system boot camp for me. I'm like, you train your muscles, you go to therapy, you train your mind, you listen to a podcast, all that stuff. Like, what are you doing to build a more robust nervous system so that you can have a capacity for more? Because a lot of creatives or people who have a big vision are not focusing on whether or not they have the capacity to hold it.
Right. Yeah. It's when you were speaking, it kind of just reminded me of building resilience, building up that resilience, because like you said, it's okay to question things. I'm a firm believer that we should kind of question everything, because why not? Who's to say, like, we live in a video game? Who's to say that any of this is real? So it's okay to question things. It's not bad. It's okay to have new experiences. And if you have it, you do it and you said, you know what, it just didn't feel right to me. That's okay. Walk away from it. You don't have to do it again. But I think that there's so much resilience to be built within yourself, your nervous system and your inner world, when you push yourself to do things that you might be a little bit skeptical of or have question marks on.
Yeah. And I think this also comes back to the conversation of like, if you don't understand it and you're questioning it, that's fair. So learn more.
Yeah.
Like, here we go, coming back. Like, we've been talking about, you know, like walking into other spaces, inclusivity. Like, I know this podcast is, you know, you talk a lot about that. And it's like, oh, I have a blind spot. I don't know that much about spinal energetics. I don't know about this demographics experience. I don't know a lot. So, you know what? Let me just read a damn book. Let me learn something. Like,
do a Google.
I don't know. I mean, with Google, I mean, and also to anybody listening, it's like, do you understand how AI works, but do you use ChatGPT?
Right.
Right.
Come on. Don't be out here being like, I need to understand everything to use it. I'm like, you understand like how you understand the inner workings of your microwave?
Right.
I
Come
know.
on now.
But you're still going to eat the Hot Pocket.
Right.
That's
Not
right.
everything has to be understood. It just is.
Yeah.
Things can just be.
Yeah. But I understand the skepticism, and I think it's good to question things, and that's an invitation to learn more.
Yeah. Well, we spend so much time, again, in this like wellness vacuum of you need to, you know, eat these certain things and you need to go to the gym this many times and ... and the ice baths and all these things. But why are we not ever focusing on like, okay, well, what's healing your nervous system? Because the go and the constant achieving and checking things off the list, and I need to be, you know, at this goal by this time, and I'm pushing my body here and I'm pushing my mind here. It's like, well, what is that doing to your nervous system? So we're so quick to push ourselves into these boxes that maybe aren't beneficial to us. Why not try something, you know, not everything has to be so rigid. Like, why not try something that, you know, like you said, might help you learn something about yourself and feel a lot more free and connected to yourself.
Yeah, and y'all brought up the like 5 to 9, 9 to 5, right? It's like, if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. Like, it's okay. And a lot of the times we just get stuck because somebody, like, who is the person who was like, this is the magic way to do things? I mean, we could go on a whole other podcast episode about that.
Right.
But I'm just going to say that, like, if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. If it's causing you to question things, good.
Yeah.
And find out what works for you. But you have so much more agency than you might have been taught. So give yourself permission to reclaim that. And if there's a whisper, maybe you should not wait until your body starts screaming.
Right. Yeah. I forgot what I had something and it was at the tip of my tongue, but that's okay. It wasn't meant to be said.
That's so weird. I had just thought something too, and then it left me.
Weird. Hey,
I don't know. Energies.
Everything happens for a reason. You're not. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say. You're not going to break. I think that we have this like fear almost of being broken, and it's like I just don't really subscribe to that idea anymore. I'm not broken. And like nothing's gonna force me to break. We're bendable, we're smooth, we're fluid. You know, we're so much more resilient than we think. Like trying something new isn't going to break you. In fact, it might lead you to something else that's a lot more empowering.
I remember mine too now. It was what you said about agency. We're not taught that at all as Black and brown women, that is for us. That's for other people, and we can see other people experiencing that. But as soon as we try to claim it for us, they're like, no, not you. Like that wasn't, you didn't actually get that. That was, you can watch it happen somewhere else. But for you, like that's a lower responsibility on your personal priority list. Because for Black and brown women, it's like, well, don't you have other things and other people that you should be taking care of? Agency, that's the farthest thing on your list. So I love that. Taking that from the bottom of your list, reprioritizing and say, actually, that's number one right now. Number one right now is recognizing that I do have that agency and I'm taking it back. And it's not number 10, it's number 1.
That's right. That part.
Yeah.
It is. It's number one. And yeah, I just love what you said about, oh, how we see it for other people and we don't see it for ourselves. And that's not our fault, but it's our responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah. Which leads me to our last question. It's a great little segue here. We're asking all of our guests, what are you doing or not doing to honor yourself this Black History Month?
I love that. She said, or not
Or
doing.
not doing.
Because you don't have to
It's
do a
like,
damn thing.
That's right. That's what we're doing. Gosh, I love that question. It feels really important to me as a Black business owner to notice where there might be aspects in the system where I lack privilege, and also noticing where I can turn it into leverage.
Mm.
And that's a huge thing for me, for myself, and also for my clients. Like, how are the things that you have been told are a liability actually an asset? And I think that February, Black History Month, is a great time for me to do that in my business financially. It's giving grant season. It's giving
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, like all of that. And on a personal level, I've been really on this journey of really pulling my family closer.
Okay.
And learning more about my lineage, about my heritage, about my ancestry, sisterhood, brotherhood, all of it, just community hood.
Mm-hmm.
How can we pull each other closer? And, you know, even touching on what Danny brought up earlier of looking at those parts and honoring first, even before going towards them, honoring the parts of us that have developed to help us make it this far.
Yeah.
Just, and letting that also be enough, because it's so easy for us to always want to change, to fix, to grow, but also going, you know what? Me being here is actually a damn miracle.
Yes.
Mm.
And what if I lived my life actually just knowing that, and not trying to disassociate from that fact,
Mm-hmm.
and just loving on myself and loving on the people around me, and knowing that at the end of the day, that's what all of this work is about. It's about coming home to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's what I'll be doing. Going home, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Good.
love that. Just out of curiosity, do you know your ancestry?
So my dad was born in Jamaica, raised in the Bahamas.
Okay.
And my mom is South Indian.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm first generation here in America, and have quite we have quite a twisty lineage, as you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a deep call for myself to also practice what I encourage my clients to do, which is to really ask those questions, to lean in to the aspects of ourselves that we might think. I just want to say this too. You might think, because you've been fed a narrative, that it's one way, but actually it might not be a story of disempowerment. It actually, when you really look at it, go, wow, a lot of really powerful, beautiful, resilient people of deep integrity and commitment did what they needed to do to get me here. And I'm so grateful to carry their blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honoring who came before you with the things that they had in front of them and choosing certain things, right? So I often think about my lineage as well. And I've talked to her about having an expert on the pod who just knows all about genealogy and ancestry. Because I did my saliva test and I'm like, I don't think I believe that one. And so I am going to go ahead and do another one. And I also wanted something more specific. So I got, 40% region of Iberia. And I'm like, well, that's so great. Thank you so much. Like Portugal or Spain. Who knows, right?
Right.
And then, of
You
course,
couldn't even get down to the nitty gritties.
I could, it's like you couldn't tell me which country. Like I would have loved to know which country. That would have been great.
Totally.
and then 30% Mesoamerican. But again, it's like, where? I mean, that's so broad. You know, I would love to know, like, of which indigenous group.
Right.
You know, that
Totally.
would explain a lot more for
Yeah.
me. So I've always been interested in that. I've been the family tree girly for a long time. So I feel you on that.
What was that? Was that 23andMe?
No, it was called My Heritage.
Oh.
And they were running a sale, and now I know why.
Oh.
Ah!
Yeah.
And that's what I get.
Yeah,
That's what I get.
So moral of the story, we get what we pay for, guys.
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. I was gonna say, I did 23andMe, and it told me my fucking tribe.
Yeah.
It said you are from these people. I'm like, oh, I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, but that's the more expensive one, and so that's why you need to do that one.
They should honestly, like, during like Black History Month and like Hispanic Heritage Month, they should run sales on that shit.
Yeah.
You know, like, why? Hello, why am I always doing everybody's marketing?
Honestly, coming back to us just always doing the work. Why are we always doing
Oh my gosh, we have at least one moment a day where it's like, how come they don't do it like this?
Right.
Or what is it? I mean, you know what would work way better?
Yeah.
Is if it were this way.
We're like, do we have to do everything? I
Literally.
guess we do.
Yes.
But thank you so much for sharing, Shantani. And we had so much fun having you on the podcast. I'm so excited for our audience to listen. Can you let them know where to find you?
Totally. So, for those of you who are listening right now, unless you're driving, I want you to go into Instagram if you have it and follow at the Holistic Hype Woman. THE Holistic Hype Woman. That is where you'll find all the updates. If you'd like to continue this conversation around nervous system regulation, around coaching opportunities, you can head to my website, shantanimore.com/coaching, and you'll see the latest offer that's available to you.
Awesome.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. And
all those links will go in the show notes.
Yeah. And as we said before, we're going to go visit Shantani in LA. So when this episode comes out, we would have had done it the week before. So we'll give you guys an update on how it went in the outro or the intro somewhere. We'll update you on our experience there. We're so excited. And yeah, thanks for coming on and spending some time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for doing this podcast. It is such a gem and so needed in this world.
Okay, y'all. Well, that was quite the conversation for me personally. One of the last things we talked about was that idea of skepticism, going into something with a healthy amount of skepticism, and why that's important and why it's okay and honestly encouraged. So we appreciate Shantani being very open and honest about that. We're about to dive into our experience in the session.
It was really great having the knowledge of what spinal energetics was before going and doing the session.
Very much.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear you guys, like, how you're digesting the episode. We did talk about a lot of different things, you know, ranging from the political climate to what is spinal energetics and healing work, and how it feels being a Black and brown woman, just showing up and having to do the work on top of helping others do the work, which we're not doing anymore.
Especially not this month.
Yeah. So it was good to, like, be able to go into the session already having that. So you'll hear more about our trip next episode. But we did go to LA to see Shantani in person. She has a lovely studio in her home, which is really great. And immediately just made us feel very, very comfortable. And she said, you know, BIPOC women do not often have spaces where they're allowed to be 100% themselves, even in wellness spaces. So I shared with her that day that I had an experience recently where I went to yoga, and it had been a while since I had gone to hot yoga, a couple months. And, you know, it was really hot. She started the class and it was like 100 and something. And then because of everybody's body heat, at one point I looked at the thermostat, it was 113 degrees in there. Like, it was so hot in there. And so that mixed with me not doing it in a while, I was like, there were times I just did a child's pose. There was times I just kind of just like sat in seated warrior pose, and I was just like there chilling, drinking some water, catching my breath. And then after the class, the woman pulled me aside and was like, basically made me feel shamed into not keeping up with the class. Like, you really should just like try your hardest. Like, I know it can be distracting, like when you're seeing people do their own thing, but like you should really try your best to follow along. And I'm like, girl, I wasn't following along because I couldn't do the moves. I wasn't following along because I was fucking hot.
Yeah. And how rude of her to assume the reason that you were breaking.
Right.
You know? Instead, that conversation could have gone so different. It could have
Mhm.
been you focused instead of her focused. It seemed like she was more worried about the reputation of her class
It didn't even
versus
need
your
to be a
well-being.
conversation because
Right.
don't
It's not typical.
they start every class with go at your own pace, listen
Right.
to your body. Okay, I was, and then I got shamed for it. I
Yeah.
got scolded for it.
Right. And then if you are going to pull me aside, why wouldn't you start the conversation with asking me a question about whether or not I'm okay?
Right.
Is there anything that I can do differently to make you feel more comfortable? It was just more like, oh, well, you didn't try hard enough. It was the assumption
Right.
that you were taking a break because you weren't trying hard enough.
And it felt like ego on her point,
It,
on her
yes,
part of like,
you ruined the look of my class.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we don't fuck with that energy anymore. Like, it's just not it.
No. And I was like, I will
Take-
not be back to the
Yeah,
studio.
take that stank ass shit somewhere else, especially in a yoga studio. Like, do you not have to?
Hello?
Let me not. We're going to get on a rant.
Yeah.
Let's focus on the positive,
Yes.
which, like I mentioned in the episode, I was a little bit kind of like, I don't know. Okay. Well, I don't know. What's going to come out? What's going to come fucking popping out? Because I just am not aware. It was my first ever experience with energy work that deep.
Right. And you are somebody who kind of tends to like, you are a deeply emotional person, but you kind of keep it to yourself.
Shit's locked away.
And you you often say, I just don't have time to deal with that shit.
Right. Because then I don't know, like, once the floodgates opened, they're opened. It's like free for all, 24 hours, fun pass. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know when that shit's going to close. That's my problem. And then that does bleed into, like, I don't have time to experience all that. We'll get to that point where I am. But I truly, truly appreciate Shantani's openness and how she made it a collaborative space. She's like,
Yes.
this is not me telling you what to do. This is the three of us having the same experience together, which was like, just automatically, like, your shoulders drop.
Yeah.
You know, your heart rate decreases.
Yeah. She's
Your
like, you don't
body
have to be
temp
quiet. Like, if
regulates.
you need to ask a question, if you need to ask for water.
Yeah, if you got to go potty.
Right. Just do it.
Do what you need to do.
Yeah.
The room was perfect. She asked for music preferences, which was incredible. Consent for recording, which I loved. All in all, just a very, like, inviting, welcoming space. I'm going to speak now to my experience with the session as much as I'm comfortable with sharing.
Yeah.
It was definitely something I didn't expect to happen, and not necessarily in either a positive or negative way, but more just in, like, a neutral way. I went into it, which she used this phrase a lot of just, like, saying yes to the experience. And I'm glad I did that because I was able to have the experience that I did. I'll speak to a lot of, like, my body, like, the physical changes that I felt like my body was going through was a lot of like,
what was the word, like, when she asked you to set an intention or like choose a word that you wanted to have for the experience? What was your word?
it was help.
That was the word you chose?
Yep.
Or that was the word that came up once you started?
She said, just choose a word.
Oh.
Right? When she first asked the both of us in the room, she was
Yeah.
like, focus on a word, whatever word comes to mind.
Oh.
Yep. That's what came. That's literally, like, it flashed big letters. Like one of them SOS type bitches. Help. And I was like, okay. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not here to explain it.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means just as much as you don't know what that means. But I was glad to have had that word come to mind. It obviously needed to happen. My physical body changes were interesting. It started off with a lot of, like, deep breathing. And for me, the hardest part at first was allowing myself to be heard. So we inhale, and then on the exhales, it's a lot of, like, vocal exhales, and you let out what needs to be let out in a sound. And that was hard for me at first because I was like, ooh, no, that's can't be heard. Like, I don't want my voice, And then it's funny because then she told me later on that she had worked a lot on my throat chakra, which I was like, that's okay, checks out. But a lot of hand tingling at one point, extremely hot all throughout my body, like actually sweating, and then other parts very cold. But not once did I ever feel uncomfortable. Those were just things that I was noticing that was happening in my body. And I was just taking mental notes and still trying to be present in the session and figuring out what it is that I was trying to release. The songs were very specific. Obviously, one that I recommended, which I talk about in the next episode. And the second one was necessary and so specific.
Yes.
To my situation.
Yeah. And let us clarify that we did the session together.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say that.
You can do it individually, but you can also do a joint session, which is really cool. Like I did Reiki for like about 1.5 years, 2 years, and then moving here, like I've done a session here or there. And I love going to sound baths. I love going to yoga. You know what I mean? Like I'm in the shits. So I'm very used to that. I'm not used to doing energetic work like that with another person. I'm usually like by myself, quiet in a room.
Yeah. And I have nothing to compare it to because, like I said, that was my first experience. Yeah. But I would imagine it was probably more comfortable for me to have a safe person in the room. And after a while, because the session did actually end up getting extended, after a while, you started to feel like shifts in energy from one person, whether it be me or Christina. Like
that weren't your own.
Right. You started to take on these things and then you started to release for that person. At least that was my experience.
Yeah.
You know, where I was starting to think like whatever you were releasing in that moment, some things were coming into my mind. I don't want to say it was telepathy, but it could have been.
Yeah. We ended up giving her the feedback that it would be a really good practice for empaths.
Yeah.
Because it's like, especially with a safe person, because it very much was, it's like maybe because we're empaths, we're already in tune and because we know each other so well at this point that like we're already really in tune with how each other feels usually. But yeah, it was like very cool to be able to feel there. I was like almost blindsided at sometimes because like the word I chose, you guys, was joy. So I was like, I just want to have a happy, fancy, free time. Yeah. And I want to release my tension and I want to go have a happy time at Zane. And so I was like sunshine, flowers, and birds. That's what I was picturing in my head. And then all of a sudden the energy shifted and I was like, oh,
my word was not joy.
That is not what we are feeling over here. She put on
and let's clarify that like we didn't share our words until after the session either. So we didn't know how either of us were going to go into it. It got kept in the noggin throughout the whole session. So neither one of us, and we didn't even really talk about it prior to.
No.
We were just kind of going into it
and
like,
her eyes
hey,
are closed and she put like a cloth
it was a cloth over your eyes.
Yeah.
Can't see shit.
Like we can't see each other, nothing. And at one point she put on that Sophie Tucker song and I was literally over here like throwing my arms around. I was like literally dancing on the table. I was vibing. And then all of a sudden the energy shifted and she was yelling and I was like, oh. Yeah.
It was anger, you guys. It was anger. That was my main takeaway from the session is that a lot of work got done on my throat and then songs started to activate things in my body that just needed to be released where it was almost like I'm very sure that here soon Shantani will be sharing some of our footage on her socials.
Yeah, so, I'm a little bit scared.
I honestly like I know she's gonna give us a very beautiful cut, but I like whatever, share it because that's what happened. And it's not to say that that's going to happen in your session. You could remain completely still for the entire time. It just wasn't my experience. And I had a lot to release. And the songs specifically, I think just triggered that emotion specifically. And also I've given birth. So I know that my body is storing shit everywhere. It's very different. It's very different. I'm going to go back. I know I have a lot more to release as it relates to childbirth specifically, among other things. But yeah, overall, a beautiful experience. I felt very safe. I cried, I yelled, I screamed, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
Proud of me.
Yeah. It is what happened. As I said, the word that I picked was joy. Just because I knew going into it that like I had a lot of tension to release, because I'm a person who I carry a lot of tension in my body, a lot in my neck, a lot in my shoulders, a lot in my lower back. And I tend to store trauma in my lower belly, and I've always done that. And so I knew that there was a lot that I did need to release. But again, having had some experience doing these types of things before, I just thought it was going to be kind of more like that. I've done a lot of Reiki, and I've always just been silent on the table, not moving while they work on me, which is fine, because I feel like Reiki is very, you go into this like energetic field, and you're out in the astral or the ethereal and whatever. They're working on your like energetic body. Like Shantani's working on your body here. While you may be also like moving some energetic things around, it's like, yeah, so it's like moving a lot. My wrists, I kept like going like this. I kept,
for me it was
opening.
a thing. Yeah.
They would like twitch. Yeah.
Grabbing, like opening and closing.
Yes.
It's the feeling of like your limbs are falling asleep, but it never quite gets there. It is just the feeling of it almost being.
Yeah.
But it was like the whole time.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of deep breathing and stuff, because I have been experiencing, like you, I've been experiencing a lot of anger over the last year, and I keep telling myself, and I keep telling, my therapist at the time and my Reiki practitioner, like, but I'm not an angry person. Like, I don't understand why I'm so angry, because I'm just not an angry person. And Shantani just simply said, like, well, you're usually not allowed to express anger because you're a Black woman. And so you feel afraid to feel angry because you need to make other people feel comfortable with you, and people are not comfortable with Black women being angry. And I'm like, yeah. So it was a space where I felt free to feel angry. And all of a sudden I was yelling in this woman's house. Yeah, and that's what it was. And then at one point I was like, I need to do a downward dog. I need to get my ass in the air.
Yeah, props to you for moving. I did feel like the only time I really did move anywhere was when my body was telling me like just to kind of sit up slightly.
Okay.
But it was like my chest kind of moving up and out.
Oh.
And she's like, well, that's literally the motion of giving birth. And I'm like, sick. She's like, that's pushing. And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like Kawhi Leonard laugh.
Yeah.
When you're laying down and then you get up to push something out of your vag.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. I couldn't really move elsewhere. And I didn't know she was moving around. Again, can't see shit.
Yeah.
It was like, first of all, no lights except for the big like red light, which was a nice touch. And then the cloth over, it wasn't even like the cloth was like a blindfold.
Yeah.
It was a washcloth. But I don't know if it was like dark for you. Was it really dark?
I was just gonna say, yeah, in the beginning, so I set the word as like joy, happiness, whatever, harmony, right? We do all the deep breathings and the sighing and the releasing, and then like we kind of start getting into the energetic work and stuff. And I all of a sudden I'm like, oh no, this is not happiness, and this is not joy. I felt like Billie Eilish in the Hit Me Hard and Soft album, where she's just like falling down into the dark ocean. I was like, oh, I don't want to go here. Nope, this is not joy. I said I want joy. So it felt dark for me, but it was like indigo blue ocean dark.
Interesting.
And then towards the end, after the Sophie Tucker song, it was like bright red, anger red.
Okay.
And those are the two colors that I saw throughout.
Well, a lot was released during that song, and it was a lot of those feelings, I think, on my end. So it could have just been everything that got yelled out into the room. Definitely would have been reminiscent of a red.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, long story long, that was our experience in a freaking nutshell.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go back. I think
like,
that
it was a dark abyss of anger, but it was cool. We're going to go back.
And I fucking loved it. And I eat that shit up. No, but really, on a serious note, I am contemplating doing the session on my own. I think I'm okay with it. Obviously, I would like to go back and do it together to see what else we can kind of uncover. Now it kind of feels like a puzzle. Yeah. You know us too. We're puzzlers.
It really did feel like we were like getting into each other's energetic orbs.
Yeah, it was
like kind of flowing almost back and forth like water.
We were in a washing machine.
I would feel waves from you. It was
Same.
it was a very cool experience to experience with someone you love.
Yes. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, we're not saying all this to make you guys scared, because it really is a really cool experience. And I think if you're in the LA area, please book a session with her. I think that you may not have the same experience as us.
I think it's like more on the unlikely side that your first session would be that. For us though, because we do carry so much, and because over the last couple of years we've experienced so much together and apart, but that we're like on similar energetic levels, I think that just kind of kicked up the experience by a couple notches and explained the extra 15 minutes that was necessary, and or however long it was. I have no idea how long we were in there. Just kind of, time doesn't really exist in those spaces, you know?
Yeah.
But we, all that to say, are so grateful that Shantani honored us in that way.
Yeah.
And really, she was about her word, you know. She said, I'm gonna hold you in this time, and she did that. And so we'll be back, and we're excited to see, well, I mean, I can't speak for you. I'm excited to see some of the footage and see what was really going
nervous.
on.
I will be honest and say I'm nervous to see the footage.
Okay, y'all.
But that is it. We hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please go follow Shantani on Instagram. She has a lot of great stuff that she shares, a lot of truths. Even just her day-to-day, like when she's uploading stuff to stories, I'm like, hell yeah, girl, you speak. And she's just a lovely person inside and out. So please go support her work. If you live in LA or Southern California, honestly, it's worth the drive. If you live in Southern California, book a session with her.
Yeah, make a day of it. You're already going to LA. There's plenty of stuff to do. So
yeah, that's about it. Please comment in the Spotifys and the YouTubes what you thought of the episode. What do you think about spinal energetics and just energy work in general?
Would you do it?
Yeah, we would love to hear that. And otherwise, we'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's EA meeting.
If you liked this episode, please share it with a friend and leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify. We'd love to hear from you.
You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at empathsanonpod.
Don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts, or subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so you're the first to know when we release a new episode.
We'll meet you back here on the Green Velvet Couch next time.
Bye, feelers!